Living Local Carolina with Katie Turner. Local trends, shopping, dining, and more. This is Living Local Carolina.
Well, thanks for joining us today on Living Local Carolina. I am at ESA Fitness Club with Terrence. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I have
Good.
some questions for you.
All right, I'm ready to answer.
First question, what does ESA stand for?
ESA stands for Enhanced Speed and Agility.
Okay.
Yeah, so most people come to me to get faster, to get more agile, to have more mobility, and more explosiveness. So
Love
yeah.
that. Well, give me a little bit about your background. How did you get into this?
I got into it after I was training for the NFL, and I had a trainer in college. And then I went up to Maryland after I played in the All-Star game my senior year, and I trained with Vernon Davis trainer, and it kind of opened my eyes to a lot more different style of training than what I was getting in college.
Interesting.
And then I was in the CFL and rookie camp with the Montreal Alouettes, and got cut from there, came back home, and started coaching and started training some kids. I put a speed and agility clinic on, got it sponsored, had about 40 kids come out. It was amazing.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay, I like it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I just opened a facility with about 4 or 5 clients, $1,000 in a 1,000 square foot facility. And that
here
was
we
12
are.
years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
And now I'm here.
Now we're here, and what is this location? It's pretty prime, man, I gotta say.
Yeah, it's so this is downtown redevelopment zone, okay? Right, smack dead in the middle of downtown Myrtle Beach is
Yeah.
515 9th Avenue North, and I've been in this building for about a year.
Okay.
So I decided to come down here, one, to be a part of the community, be a part of the redevelopment and all the stuff that's going on downtown. So I just, took a risk, and so far it's been pretty good. We got a lot of neighbors coming down on this street,
Yeah.
and I like the plans that's what's happening down here. So I just wanted to be a part of some growth and be on the beginning of the stages, and that also actually ask what we think and what we want to do, and so it's pretty cool.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, who's the typical client that you see on a daily basis? I know that you have all these different sports painted up on the wall,
Yeah.
which he did himself, by the way. Love that.
Yeah. A typical client is a high school and a middle school athlete. I do some 4th and 5th graders. I kind of start around 10 years old. That's kind of like my stopping point.
Yeah.
I've had some 9-year-olds that were pretty mentally there, that can stay locked in the whole session. And then when the seasons kind of change, I get my college guys and girls coming back in, and then I get some of my professional athletes. They'll drop in. I can't just rely on college and pro athletes because their seasons are longer in that at school. But most of my clientele are high school and middle school athletes, so we're trying to build them up. But the key is catch them in middle school. So by the time they get to high school, by the time they're juniors and seniors, they're 10 times better, and to give them a better chance to either go to college or make their varsity squad.
Yeah.
So that's the typical. And I also do adult personal training as well. So in the morning times, that's what I spend my time with doing.
I think a lot of people wonder where these great athletes come from, and I think a lot of times this is the thing that really makes the biggest difference for kids.
We'll be back right after this break with more Living Local Carolina.
Well, good morning. Thanks for joining us today on Living Local Carolina. Today I'm back with Everett from Looking Good Auto Detailing. Thanks for being with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, today we're talking about ceramic coating 101. Why is this important? Why do our viewers need to be considering this for their cars?
So you buy a vehicle. If anybody's been paying attention to the market, the price of vehicles have gone up over the course of the last few years.
Yeah.
It's always been important to have some form of protection on your paint, whether it be wax, sealant, ceramic. With ceramic, it's just a longer lasting protection. So it protects your vehicle from the harmful UV rays of the sun, bird droppings, etching from bugs.
Yeah.
If you live closer to the beach, the air is kind of salty. It can cause oxidation or rust on your paint. So
we all know about that.
right, and even if like when you go to sell a vehicle, the resale value, it maintains that resale value. So, and it looks good.
Yeah.
So,
Your car looks like brand new.
right, easy to maintain, the whole shebang. Like I don't know a downside to ceramic.
Yeah. So how long does it last once you get it
It
coated?
depends. It depends on a lot of factors. So it depends on the maintenance.
Okay.
So we have a 2-year coating, a 5-year coating, and a 9-year coating.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it depends on the maintenance. It depends on the upkeep. It really just depends on that client and how well they maintain that vehicle, whether it sits outside or in the garage, daily driver or not. Like it's a lot of different factors that go into how long the ceramic can actually last. The manufacturer guarantees that it's on the vehicle for X amount of years, but depending on how that client maintains it will determine that.
The longevity, and you're getting your bang for your buck there.
Right.
Well, you have a lot of different options at Looking Good Auto Detailing,
sure.
where you can kind of pick and choose, and you can walk people through that process too, right?
Yeah, it's a lengthy process. So we have you, when you book, we have you book a consultation first.
Yeah.
So you come in, we'll inspect the vehicle, see what the needs of the vehicle are, and then kind of go from there. We'll give you our suggestions, and then you'll make an informed decision based on the information we gave you.
Love it. Okay, how can people get in contact with you and learn a little more?
We're at lookinggoodauto.com, or you can give us a call at 803-974-0709.
Well, welcome back to Living Local Carolina. Today I'm joined in studio by Becky from the Champion Autism Network. Becky, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Tell me, how did you get involved with CAN in the first place?
I created CAN.
Okay.
So I have a son who's high functioning on the spectrum. We relocated here from the South Jersey area 11 years ago. And there's all these wonderful organizations that support the person with autism, therapies and speech and ABA, but there's nothing for the family. And so we started in 2013 with our sensory friendly movies. People came out to them and they were so excited to be somewhere where everybody got it and understood. They asked what else was there. So we took surveys and collected data, and we started a training program for restaurants because that was the number one thing our parents wanted to do. So we started to educate restaurants, and then I was like, okay, if you're gonna, like I said, invite the autism world to come out and play, everybody needs to know how to treat them and what's going on. So the travel initiative started in 2016, and that's when we became a 501c3 and incorporated, and we've just been kind of off and running ever since.
You're really covering all the bases, though, from the educational standpoint to actually just providing them something to do. But from your standpoint, what has it felt like being able to actually educate somebody that had no idea what autism was? How does that feel to you as a mom, too?
It's really wonderful and refreshing, and it's not embraced by everybody or every business, and that's okay, right? We're just happy that most businesses and people in the community feel it's the right thing to do. And really, it's not rocket science. Generally speaking, you just have to kind of lead with love, and like in a restaurant or pretty much anywhere, if you have light switches and a volume control, you're halfway there in supporting people. Then it's just learning tips and tricks about, what to do, how to treat people these autism families in your restaurants or your stores or at your resorts, and what kind of support they might need, and then what to look out for in case there's a runner or an eloper, how to handle that situation.
A little patience goes a long way too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We'll be back right after this break with more Living Local Carolina.
Thanks for joining us today on Living Local Carolina. I am joined by Joshua. You are a self-proclaimed indie manga creator.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
All right, we got to get down to the bottom of this. Tell everybody what you do and how you got into this in the first place.
So me being an indie manga creator, I've always liked anime, superhero stuff growing up. That was my main inspiration. But then I always had these ideas, like as I was going through things growing up, that I would watch movies and I was like, I could make that better. So in my head, I would like make these movies with my own characters, and I'll be sitting in class just daydreaming about these movies that I'm making in my own head. Eventually I started making an idea for some concepts for a manga, and I really didn't act on it until the passing of my mother before college, because my mom passed away then, probably 2 weeks after when my older brothers passed away. That was kind of what, I know that, I know how that's, but sometimes, there's a blessing in the lesson, and in that lesson, it propelled me into acting on the things that my mom believed in me in doing. So I started with the manga. I really didn't get into after the college, where I felt like I could draw, but I wanted to draw everything myself. But I then took a course where someone was like, hey, if you can, get out of the way so somebody else can do it, because I'm looking at another 2 years if I try to learn how to do the manga style. So with that, I started on doing it. Started going to conventions, and I would first kind of pick people's brains. One of my early mentors, he was surprised because I just asked him, hey, can I get your number? Can I reach out to you if I need anything? And I was asking him 6 months later, I'm messaging him, I'm like, hey, guess who's gonna be at the same convention that you were at? And he was surprised. From there, I was just hitting it boots to the ground. And I've done PowerCon, which is a local one for Florence. I've done, I believe, I did the Grand Strand one that's down here, the Grand Strand Comic-Con. And then I recently did LA Comic-Con. So
that's big.
That was a condensing of the timeline of how we got here. But my main project, there was one time I had a dream, and it was about Camgechi. And I then started to connect the dots after I had that dream. I took a Gullah Geechee business course, and they were trying to tie in what I do into the course. They were like, why don't you do a Gullah Geechee story? And I was like, why don't I do a Gullah Geechee story? That's a good point. And I started connecting it, and then that's when all of this came about. And from here, I mean, this is starting to be one of the stories that, despite my main project is doing good, but as people start to hear about Camgechi, they're like, we want this.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here right now.
So you're building this world that is completely tied to your own culture.
Yes.
What has the response been so far when you tell people about this?
There's more of a surprise, actually, because no one's doing it. Yeah. I go to a lot of these conventions and I ask people, about Gullah Geechee culture, and I even talk about how a lot of African Americans don't realize here in America, 80% of us have some type of Gullah Geechee lineage, but yet they don't know that they have this lineage. So when I bring up the concept of Camgechi, I have been quizzed a little bit, but I'm doing my best as I'm learning about my own history, that I'm, putting it into the story. So that's kind of the fun part about it, is taking something that I find out about Gullah Geechee culture and find a way to twist it and put it into the story.
It's very unique.
Very unique.
It's very cool what you do. I'm very excited to see where this goes. How can people stay updated with everything that you're doing so they can get that drop the second that it's ready?
Good question. So I have my Instagram that is @_no retreat, no surrender. That's the name of my main project, is No Retreat, No Surrender. My email is missyoujoshua@gmail.com.
Remind me of the Instagram name again.
@_no retreat, no surrender.
Don't forget to like our page on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. How to use the QR code. Just open the camera app on your smartphone, iPad, or tablet. Point your device at the QR code so the QR code appears on your screen. Your device will recognize the QR code and show you a notification. Click that notification and you'll come to our website. Living Local Carolina, weekday mornings at 9:30 on WBTW News 13.